Hello everyone, welcome to Fresh Talks. Today we'll be discussing the new NHR 2.0, TISRI in English, IFISI in Portuguese. I'm joined here by Pedro Abreu, tax lawyer at Fresh. I'm Luis Costa, I am a corporate and tax lawyer at Fresh as well. And we're very excited to bring to you an explanation of the different routes where you can access NHR 2.0. Pedro, everyone's heard about the new NHR 2.0 program, the IFISI in Portuguese, the TISRI in English, NHR 2.0 for ease of reference. So how does it actually affect Portuguese tax residents' personal income tax situation?
So, Luis, basically what we have with this new tax benefit scheme in Portugal with different acronyms, but for easiness, we call it NHR 2.0. In terms of the benefits that it can generate for those who qualify for the positions, they are quite similar to the ones that we have for the NHR in the past. So using that as a reference is a good start. And basically the structure that we have right now for the benefits is if you produce employment or self-employment income sourced in Portugal that qualifies for TISRI, you get a 20% flat rate on your income tax. We should add up that probably the taxpayers who qualify for those positions will also face Social Security, but the best part comes from the foreign sourced income. Basically, the law has established a different structure compared to what we had with the NHR, that now all foreign sourced income, with the exception of pension income, will be exempt in Portugal. And that includes also capital gains derived from securities, which was kind of a problem with the old NHR. And that's basically the best part that one can get from TISRI.
Okay, so is it worldwide income, or are there any restrictions on the sourcing territory for IFISI purposes?
So, in a first moment, we can say that as tax residents, they need to report the worldwide income and foreign sourced income will be exempt. However, it has a restriction if it derives from a blacklisted jurisdiction of Portugal, which is basically a list of what we normally call tax havens. In Portugal, it's kind of an extensive list, but it's always good to check on that and be prepared with some planning to avoid being in such a situation where you will plan yourself to get TISRI, you will have all the qualifications, but if you do not plan exactly in terms of the source of your income, it might lead to this particular.
Okay, so people should be aware of this and maybe talk to their portfolio managers or look at their holdings and maybe structure them to be fully NHR 2.0 eligible.
Exactly.
Now, in terms of access to the regime, that's where the line is drawn between the previous regime and the new regime, right? So there are several routes to access the NHR 2.0. Could you describe two of them?
Yes, Luis. So we have about 7 different routes with very specific paths to be followed, and eventually people will realize that like 2 or 3 of them are actually very accessible. The rest of them, of the other routes, are kind of oriented to specific positions, will be quite hard for the majority of people to fit into that. But 2 of them that we have identified that are pretty interesting are the ones derived from companies that operates in Portugal. So you need to have a Portuguese incorporated entity, and this entity must be qualified to certain positions and also for its own purpose to the TISRI benefits that we are talking about, the NHR 2.0 benefits that we're talking about. One of the paths that one can follow is having a qualified position in a company that serves a specific purpose, that it's under the YAPMEI regulation. YAPMEI, it's basically an agency for economic development in Portugal, and they have established in their own regulations a list of activities that are relevant to the Portuguese economy, and therefore these entities, once they have this purpose, once they are set to from an accounting and also substantive perspective to operate on those levels, on those areas, if you hold a qualified position that it's also on a list of YAPMEI, which also includes basically the managers of those entities, they could qualify for TISRI in a way that you can have your own business as long as it is structured in Portugal and as long you have the purpose very well aligned with what it's described in law and on the regulations, and as long as the taxpayer, the one that is qualifying for TISRI, the company doesn't qualify for TISRI, although you have the qualifications, but who applies for TISRI is the individual. If the individual holds the position in a specific company and it has academical background to support that, it is an interesting path that doesn't involve anything that it's too elaborated. And basically, if you're still active, if you want to have access to those tax benefits, you simply need to bring your business to Portugal. That's the purpose of this tax benefit. It's to incorporate a little bit more of substance to this foreign business. They are well developed, and having something in Portugal that truly brings more to the local economy, that can improve the local ecosystem in these terms. And basically that would be the route A. The route B that we have identified that it's also pretty interesting for newcomers, that makes sense for newcomers, is the incorporation of an export-orientated company. Basically, it will be an entity, again, also incorporated in Portugal, that export services or goods. It doesn't really matter. The point is 50% or more of the turnover of this company must derive from exported services or goods. And once you were set in there, you need to apply to this benefit, as long as you hold also a qualified position in this company, which again, it's not that hard. You could be the manager of this entity, and as long as everything is aligned, you could have access to TISRI as if it was with the previous path. And that would be basically the two options that we believe are more kind of feasible for those who are newcomers in Portugal, that are still active, that still have their business, that wants to keep substance to what they are doing right now. And it's also an opportunity to bring this business to Portugal, be part of the community, trying to create something new in the place where you want to live. So I think it will be advantageous for all the parts involved.
That's great. So maybe circling back to the first one, the YAPME route. From what I understand, the list of activities for the individuals is pretty similar to the first regime, but now there's an additional requirement of the list of activities for the deemed strategically relevant companies. This is very interesting as well from the point of view of entrepreneurship in Portugal, because this can actually be a great opportunity to develop the market. Now, in terms of the 10-year period during which NHR 2.0 applies, is there a renewal request, and is there a specific request on the company to have a certain amount of revenue per year for the YAPME route?
So for the YAPME route, for now, we don't have this revenue threshold. So the idea is that even new companies incorporated could still apply to YAPME. The only thing that I would mention is that if it's a huge company with turnover surpassing 75 million euros, then it's a different eligibility requirement, but it's still on. So it doesn't matter if it's small or big in terms of business, you can still apply to it. In terms of the eligible positions, as you mentioned, we don't really have nothing that it's incredibly new compared to the ones that we have seen before. And we actually have some services that would add it up, like, for example, financial consulting or financial services or insurance services. They all have been included on that, as long as they pertain to the purpose of this Portuguese entity.
That is great. And so if I understand correctly, you need to hold that position, be it in your own company or in any eligible company for the period of 10 years, correct?
Exactly. Basically, you're going to do an application in the first moment, and this application will contain all the reference and proof relating to the eligibility requirements. However, for the next 10 years where you can have tax benefits starting from the year of your first tax residency in Portugal, you will need to maintain this position during this period of time, which means that if you come to Portugal in 2025, apply in 2025, in 2026, you still need to hold an eligible position. Not necessarily the same that you had once you have applied, because life changes. You could be in a different place with a different business and things can grow, but as long as you keep meeting the requirements for the eligibility for TISRI, you can still maintain the benefits for the period of time that you have since the first year of tax residency. Of course, if something changes in your position, if it has been replaced for another eligibility requirement, or if you simply have lost it, you need to inform by year end to the tax authorities that the eligibility requirements doesn't exist anymore or that they have changed.
Okay, that sounds very, very clear. Regarding the export route, how clear is that route as of this moment, and what should we expect an export company to do in order to qualify as such?
So the requirements for the export company, currently they are not 100% clear. However, the reference from the law that we have, it's the criteria that I have mentioned before, that as long as you have a qualified position in an entity that exports more than 50% of the turnover, they will qualify for it. It's interesting because in this case, there is no third agency, let's say an external agency, to check this criteria as we have with YAPME, for example, or in other routes to TISRI as the startup one, where a third agency is the one that checks it and tax authorities only check your tax residency. In the case of the export company, the tax authorities will check all the eligibility requirements. Therefore, we expect them to be a little bit more strict, perhaps, in terms of the setup that this company will have. We're still waiting a little bit more in terms of the specific regulations, the very, meticulous criteria that we might have for a company like that. But for now, the criteria doesn't seem that hard, and it kind of fits most of the newcomers business that normally refers to, some trading or any other side business that they had when they were in the previous country where they have lived. They set up the company in Portugal and they basically continue to work with foreign clients. So it's kind of adapted and in the first moment seems kind of promising.
Okay, that also sounds great. Obviously, we need a word from the tax authorities, but in any case, from my end, I'm expecting them to leverage their ongoing reporting obligations, which mean that companies have to report all their invoicing on a monthly basis. So maybe there is an opportunity there to make the export route a bit easier in terms of annual renewal. That is great, Pedro. From what I gather from your information, this is a great opportunity for people who already developed business outside Portugal and that want to continue their work based out of Portugal and also have an opportunity to do a positive impact in the community. So this could be a great chance, not only for NHR eligible people, but also for the Portuguese entrepreneurial landscape.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Luis. I absolutely agree. And considering the other routes that we have for TISRI and the other options that are being developed by the Portuguese legislation, I do believe all of them has their own merits. However, this too seems more promising, seems more to create more impact in what we have in our current environment in Portugal. I do believe that it could increase the interest even in developing businesses in Portugal, which is the very own purpose of giving a tax benefit, to have this trade-off in terms of what it can bring to the ecosystem, to the local entrepreneurship, as you have mentioned. So yes, I'm also quite optimistic about it.
That is great. We're very excited about this. Any final notes you want to send our viewers?
So, as you can see, although the criteria is kind of different from the old NHR, if you believe that you have this substance in your business, or if you believe that you have this profile, which is not that uncommon, it's not that complicated to meet these requirements. If you believe that you need to be in a new position in Portugal, for example, you don't have to have a company of your own. You can look for maybe a job also here and bring your expertise to Portugal. I ask that you consult us. Fresh Portugal is actively bringing this simplicity to the extremely complex legislation that we have, and we truly believe that with our services we can structure everything that it's needed on your side, on the taxes, on the corporate, and also from an immigration perspective, to make you develop your life in Portugal in the best way as possible.
Thanks a lot, Pedro. I guess this is it for this Fresh Talks. Thank you everyone who's watching at home. Please don't forget, you can click like, you can subscribe to our channel to be always up to date with everything tax, immigration and corporate services in Portugal. This is Luis Costa from Fresh, joined by Pedro Abreu. Thank you very much for watching.